welcome to the other three amigos, Las Damas, your weekly unofficial SSE Airtricity Women's Premier Division podcast with Declan McCormack, Eileen Ring and John O'Sullivan. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. So sit back, put the feet up, because it's TOTAP time.
On this week's Las Damas, we have a special shout out to an outstanding player who seemingly missed us while we were away. Athlone Town manager Ciaran Kilduff discusses his frustrations as he steps forward to fight for the players in this league. We have the usual reviews of last weekend's games, the previews of next weekend, and right at the end we find out which random league connected occurrence has annoyed me this weekend. We play out one of the great cartoon theme tunes of all time. All that on this week's Las Damas. Call me. Hello and welcome to TOTAP Las Damas, Season 3, Episode 14, Episode 211 of the full TOTAP offerings. We are an award-winning podcast. We are now on Patreon at patreon.com/TOTAP. Retweets are very welcome and very important to help the pod grow. And as always, our DMs are always open. It's been 2 weeks since we've been here, so it's great to be back. And tonight I am, as usual, joined by the other two amigos. First up is Eileen Ring. Eileen, how was your 2 weeks off?
Well, it wasn't really 2 weeks off because you made me do the men's pod last Monday. But other than that, it was lovely.
You're still not over that by the looks of things.
No, never.
John, you did get 2 weeks off, so good to be back.
Yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed it's nice to listen to the pod when I'm not there, because I never listen to it when I'm on it. So I enjoyed being a listener for a change. It was good.
Very good, very good. And tonight we also have a special guest, Athlone Town Women's Football Club manager, former League of Ireland striker supreme. It's Ciaran Kilduff. Ciaran, thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. You are more than welcome, sir. We want to start tonight actually with a special shout out to a big fan of the podcast. So much so that I'm told she got special TOTAP pajamas made to help her sleep at night. TOTAP posters, TOTAP Las Damas posters, more specifically for the walls of her bedroom. And cried herself to sleep most nights when she wasn't able to listen to us. So, Roisin Malloy, big shout out. And hopefully you're enjoying this week's pod and the girls won't be too harsh on you in training during the week. Since we have been away, guys, very quickly, Sligo and Leitrim won the Gaynor Cup. John, you were up there for the week. Great week as usual. Very enjoyable, you were saying, and fully deserved from a less well-known district, should we say?
Yeah. No, I wasn't up there for the whole week. In case anyone that employs me ever listens to this, I got up for a few of the evening games. Got to spend a bit of time up there. Look, it's a fantastic competition. Sligo and Leitrim, they were kind of quietly going about their business. They conceded, I think, only one goal the entire tournament. They were just really, really solid, really well organised, an outstanding goalkeeper in defence. Deserved winners. South Belfast came runners up, and there was an awful lot of buzz about them up there. But overall, look, it's just such a positive competition, and fair play to everybody in the different leagues and the SFAI. And look, Tom Elms and James Scott were both there as well, watching kind of the next wave of kids coming through. It's just brilliant to see. And look, the standard again, look, it's just growing. It's getting better and better year on year. But no, it was excellent. Fantastic week. And Kennedy Cup obviously started off tomorrow. So 2 big weeks in UL for schoolboy and schoolgirl football.
Absolutely. It's great to hear James Scott was out and about anyway. At least it's good that somebody from the FAI can get out once in a while. Eileen, we had a Karen Duggan article this week, which you always say when one appears makes the FAI shiver and worry about what's going to be said. And this one seems to have hit home massively with lots of footballing people in this country. No under 21s, no under 23s. The lack of the home base squad since Eileen Gleeson has come in touched a lot of nerves, and we're going to talk to Ciaran about this specifically in a couple of minutes. But just to get your opinion first, the points that Karen made in that article.
Yeah, I think it's something I'm harping on about for years now, either a 21s or a 23 side. You need that because you're losing a huge amount of players once they come out of under 19s. To step up to senior is so big, especially if they're playing in the league here. And every other side has it. And the only excuse I can think of is finances, and maybe they just don't really care enough to have one in place. it's something that's key for development going forward. There's tournaments for them to play in. And as I said, every other side in the world that's progressing at senior level and is being very successful at senior level has these, mostly it's 23 side, and like, yeah, we might benefit the odd time. You will have someone like Anna Patton, who maybe in the granny rule will qualify for us, and we'll have a fall off from England, but that's going to be rare enough. Like, so it's just something that it has to be there. And I was actually surprised about the home base sessions, especially given, look, we have to be honest here, like Eileen Gleason's background is this league. Like, it's very strange. Like, she should have a better knowledge of this league than any of the previous managers who barely even knew we had a league here. Like, so I mean, there's no excuse for that, like in my opinion anyway, like for home base sessions, like they're something. And I think they're a good thing for players as well. And look, I'm sure Ciaran will touch on it as well. Like, it's a good, I suppose, something for players to aim for, to be in that home based, and to just pull that totally that's an awful shame, really. And as said, look, sometimes it's a bit of a two fingers to the league. And look, Declan, we were just talking there before we were recording about the international side in this country is not going to be successful long term unless our league here is successful, unless that comes down to people get out supporting it. But that includes the FAI supporting it as well, and stuff like I said, the home base sessions, little rewards for players who are doing well week in, week out. That has to happen, or as I said, we're always going to be chasing our tails. As it is, we're already 20 years behind everyone, but that gap is just going to keep growing.
Ciaran, as a manager in the league, have you guys been given any information or been told why that home-based sessions have been cancelled?
No. I suppose when I spoke to you yesterday after the game, we were talking about the match that was in hand, and I had actually read Karen's article on the way down on the bus to Cork. So it was something I'd actually felt strongly about. And I'm relatively new to the league, but I'm a year in it now, and I've kind of felt like you nearly have to do your time before you can give your opinion. And I'm kind of getting to that point now where I feel like a year in the job, and my team have been successful, and I feel like we're going quite well. It's not on the back of a 1-0 win against Cork I'm coming out on this crusade. It's something I actually feel about. It's the fact that I'm in the league and I have some great talent, and I know other managers in the league feel similar in the sense that, but there is no contact. I've had none anyway. I feel like we're nearly giving away a feeling of, well, if they're any good, they'd be gone, and that's my feeling of it. And I don't like that, because I'm coming from the men's game where that was always the way. It was like you needed to get that plane to England and then you'd be seen. And I don't think, but actually ironically now they're trying to reverse that in the men's game. They're trying to get rid of that feeling. Oh no, we have a league here now, and I can see it happening in, like, I feet on the ground now in the women's league, and I know all the players and I know my group, and I just worry that, like, I want to be able to tell girls, listen, if you're doing really well, I want to be able to say to my players that it's been recognised, that here's, you're up at home base, they want to have a look at you. And I've if I just give an example of someone like Kelly Brennan, who's probably, I've converted her from a centre forward to a right back, but she's all the talent in the world, she's the head for it. But like, are they being seen? As I'm saying, if I'm managing a successful team and I've had zero contact, I think I made the point yesterday to you, Decky, even with regards Casey Howe. Casey Howe is one of the best players in the league. Casey Howe could have declared for the Republic of Ireland at the start of this season, but nobody came to knock on the door. And probably the compounding fact for me was that Tanya, the Northern Ireland manager, has been hammering down the door. Regular calls, wants to know, have I any more? Who else can play for her? And it's just that feeling of the disconnection. And it's, as you said there, like, the manager's coming from this league, Katie McCabe, the majority of that current team, the national team, have come from this league. And I just don't want to feel like, where my good work, their good work, everyone's good work is just to exist. Do you know what I mean? You need to have, there needs to be a bigger picture. There needs to be, the league right now isn't contaminated. It's pure. There's no real money involved. So you need to be able to tell players, new players, young players, that, listen, come in here, you can be developed, you can get good coaches and that. And my feeling at this point is that it's not. It comes back to that first point I made. I feel like we're nearly given a feeling of, if you're any good, you'd be gone. And I don't like that feeling, to be honest. I don't. And it's not going to keep coaches or managers or players here are happy. And we also have to recognise that because we're not playing, we're also competing then with other sports. So we need to give the players something to strive towards, to let them know that when you do well, it'll be recognised, seen, and it is being monitored. And I just firsthand haven't felt that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously once players finish with the Irish under-19 side, as Karen has pointed out, there's no under-21s, there's no under-23s. So as you said, when they're striving for something, that home-based squad and that home-based training squad, and to be included in that is the next goal at the moment on the international ladder. I'm going to presume, and I don't like presume, but I'm going to presume, Ciaran, that you would be massively in favour of an under-21 and an under-23 side being introduced.
It makes no sense not to have one. The point I was trying to make to you is, like, I literally have some of the best players in the country at my disposal, and I'm aware of that now. And I don't, maybe it's just the league, I don't get interviewed much. Do you know what I mean? And so now is probably, you put a microphone in front of me yesterday, and here we are, because I've had probably this to say, and I have to come out and fight for my girls, but I'm not just going, my girls are great, they should all be playing for Ireland. That's not the point. The point is there has to be a vision within the league that we can produce players here to go on to the national team. And just because you're playing here does not mean there's no contact. And listen, it's a stinging point that I made to you, Decky, but the facts are, I'm in the league a year. My team, my players have won the FAI Cup, the President's Cup, they're challenging for the league, and I have never received a phone call from anyone to inquire about any of my players, even just for, not to say they need to be called in, but just to be even like, what are they like? Are they any good? And I imagine that I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only club that probably feels like this. So we need more, and I need more, because if I'm committing my life and my coaching and managerial career, and I'm asking my players to give it their all, well, then we need to feel like it's being valued, respected, and there is a pathway, there is hope that, if I do well, it'll be seen, it'll be recognised, it'll be noticed, and I can progress my career. It can't just be to exist or to leave. I can't be, you can't be, and the clubs, in fairness to Athlone and the other clubs, they're trying their best, but we can't have an unwritten mantra of, if they're any good, to be gone. That can't be it.
Yeah, and do you find, Ciaran, that seeps its way down through the whole of the international setup, right down into the underage international sides, or is it just at the senior level that you see this issue?
Well, I'm only managing at the senior level. Do you know what I mean? I'm producing players. I have players in their early 20s, but the league itself, listen, we qualified for the last World Cup, which I felt we should have been riding that coattails out, and like probably that's the reason I'm in the league. I was like, this is a new dawn for football and women's football and football in Ireland, that I was like, yeah, I'm delighted with my job. It's the best decision I ever made, taking the Athlone job. Love every day of it, love competing, but I do feel that you're kind of getting to a point going, sometimes you're looking at it going, is it being seen? Is the work we're doing being seen? Are the players being seen? Is there enough exposure on it? Or is it just, we're here going about our work thinking because I tell my girls yesterday before the game, I was like, Turner's Cross is one of the best grounds in the country to play football in. And I'm probably a purist of that, where I've played in the league and I bought into the history of Dalymount Park and the history of Turner's Cross, and you're trying to motivate your group, but they need to feel that from above. We need to feel that the whole way through, that, girls, you're being invested in here. You've got a chance, and the best will be rewarded, and something to strive for. And I just felt yesterday probably came out with me at the wrong time. Like, I wasn't planning on it. It just, you caught me at a moment where I was like, this is how I feel right now. I was probably buzzing about our win, but I was also frustrated with does it make a difference?
And look, to be fair, you're not the only one. Obviously, we're in a kind of privileged position where we do know people around the league and managers around the league, and other managers, I said it to them today. I said, look, I think this is what Ciaran's going to say, and people came back to me and said, yes, we agree with him. I'm not going to mention names, but obviously Eva Mangan was in the Irish senior squad, the last one up. Phil Trail has an exceptional group at Galway. Jenna Slattery never gets mentioned. There's numerous players around the league who never get mentioned, and you're certainly not on your own in the way you see things. I was looking today, and Hannah Dingley, as per the FAI statement dated the 10th of April, Hannah Dingley started work as the FAI head of women and girls football on the 20th of May. Have you heard from Hannah Dingley in that intervening period, Ciaran?
No, I haven't heard. Look, as I said to you, my phone has never rang from anyone outside of Athlone, with the exception of the Northern Ireland manager, who wanted to know everything. And look, this is not like, I'm not trying to shame someone or damn someone. I'm just telling you how it is with feet on the ground. And like to go back to like Erin McLaughlin and Ava, like, the league are proud of them. It's not like one shouldn't be in a mind should. Like, they're well worth their positions. It's just the fact that I can't even turn around to my players when they're going well and say, listen, it's been seen, they're coming, something's happening for you, or we can see there's a progression. And we don't have a framework. I don't have a framework that my players can aspire to, that I can, bring in new players. And there's players at Sligo, there's players at Wexford, all over the country, Bows, who could be potential future Irish players. And right now, maybe we're in the Midlands, we're not in one of the major cities, maybe we're just outside of it, but I just definitely don't feel like, there's recognition being handed out, there's a spotlight being shone on us, and I don't feel like, as a manager, I've kept my mouth shut probably for the first year, even though I've probably felt it for a long time, but I have a body of work behind me now to kind of come out and say, well, this is my experience of it. It's not to have a go at one person or anyone in particular. It's just an overall, this is the reality of the Women's National League right now.
You've mentioned framework there on numerous occasions, Ciaran. Like, to me, a framework comes from a national association. It doesn't come maybe from an individual manager, because individual managers will change every 3-4 years, whatever it might be. That framework is put in place by a national association. So I'm going to say that it's the FAI have failed in the implementation of the framework that you're referring to. Is that the way you'd see it?
Listen, potentially yes, but I'm not here. I don't care whose framework it is to draft up. I was talking to you yesterday as a Lone Town women's manager, frustrated that my players don't get recognised at a higher level. Not one in particular, all of them. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same in Galway. Yeah. It's the same in Wexford and Bows. It's not. I'm casting a wide net. I'm looking at this as a league, as a product, and I'm going, I was hoping we'd be further down the tracks as a league. I don't have any. I love my club. I think the group I have I'm blessed to have them. I just want more for them. And I think for all of the girls in a lot of the teams, I think they deserve definitely more than what they're getting. And someone will tell you a story of where, no, she's been looked at and they've been looked at, or, I think someone had said Eva Mangum, Colin had seen her down there, Colin Healy. So that's great. But I'm literally, and so it's merited then, so due diligence has been done there. So, and credit to them all for doing it. But I'm saying we need more on the other side. I'm trying to keep my players motivated. I have some top quality players, as do Galway, as do others. And I just get a feeling like we're existing rather than aiming to thrive. And that's how I feel. And it probably, I don't even know if it comes down to it. To be honest, I find myself nodding a lot, a bit like you said, Eileen Dusby, when I read Karen Duggan's article, because she's probably summed up what I felt in a couple of paragraphs, and here I am waffling on. Do you know what I mean? I literally feel that she hit the nail on the head. And I know I'm a manager, so I can give you the manager's perspective, but I agree.
But if history is anything to go by, the likes of Karen Duggan, Shauna Cook, there would be others. They're just the two names that pop into my head. Well, Eileen, they'll largely be ignored by the FAI, and they won't have any kudos from those in the corridors of power at Abbottstown. Yeah,
but isn't this, I suppose, an ongoing, not just in the women's game, and obviously we are talking about the women's game, but in the men's game as well. Anyone who talks sense, and someone like Karen, like Sean, someone like Ciaran now that's involved, they're the people that are on the ground. As said, obviously the two girls around the women's game longer than Ciaran, but these are the people that need to be listened to, because they're living it day in, day out, and they can see what's there, and they can see what small changes can make a really big difference for players and for the growth of this league. And it has said, it can't be a case of we haven't capitalised on qualifying for a World Cup at all. Our league took this huge break during the World Cup, so you couldn't capitalise on it crowd-wise at that time. And said, you have to start listening to these people. But I know in my heart that as soon as they see a Karen Duggan article, there's eyes rolled up in Abbottstown without a shadow of a doubt, because she's pointing out the obvious, and that's it. Karen's not after reinventing the wheel with her suggestions. Ciaran's not reinventing the wheel. These are common sense things that they just don't want to do. And look, this is it a football thing? Is it a thing in Ireland? If you probably look at every sport, we've governing bodies, and there's people sitting on these governing bodies that haven't an absolute notion of what is happening on the ground in the sport that they're governing, and that is the issue. And as said, look, it's obviously an ongoing thing with the FAI. They have a huge amount of issues with government, which then obviously knocks onto funding, and it's a really slippery slope. And whereas you could have a couple of people that you're going to listen to, is said that they're not asking, there's no one asking for a huge amount. There's nobody asking for an awful amount. It's small steps to say that make players in this league feel appreciated, that this league has a pathway to international sides, to play professionally if they so wish. But as Ciaran said, and it's always, this is my big thing, like at the women's game, like, and I hear it an awful lot, especially with younger players coming through. Yeah, but they want to make a career out of it. We're kidding ourselves. There's very few careers to be made out of the women's game at the moment. The money is not there. If you look at that Irish international side, most of those girls are playing professionally. They're all going to have to go into and find work as soon as their careers are over, maybe apart from one or two of them. And even at that, I think it'll be a push. Like financially, the money is not there, even over in the UK, apart from like 1%. So like you have to look at a big picture, I think, and starting to listen to managers in this league, the likes of Karen, somebody like Shauna. They speak sense, so listen to them. Don't roll your eyes when they come up with suggestions that, as I said, these aren't really big things that people are asking for.
But the product is actually there. I mean, we saw, I think they had 2,500, 3,000 at a Galway game then where they made a big push. I'm going to be honest with you, like I had a 12-year career in the League of Ireland men's, obviously, and then I've had a year in the women's. I don't know which felt longer, but in fairness to to my year in management, the FAI Cup we had win last year against Shells on the telly, and like that was probably the highlight of my sporting career. And I've had a lot. It was just an amazing day. It was a new role for me. I was a relatively young manager. I was in it so young. I had moments with some of my players that'll last forever. And so those moments are there for the play, and that's what I'm paying them in the hope of another day like that. Like I even had a daydream. I was chatting to Phil Thrill before we played in the dead rubber in the All Ireland Cup. We were both already through, and how are you getting on? We were chatting, and we played each other last game of the season. And he was like, wouldn't it be great if one of us had a chance of winning it by then? We'd probably sell this out. And I'd be like, Jesus, imagine that. Do you know what I mean? We'd probably be 5th and 6th by then. But like, you're literally going, it could happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could happen. And you're kind of going, imagine that for a daydream. Do you know what I mean? Like, we weren't counting our chickens at the point I'm trying to make there. It was just like, there's still some big days out to be had for these girls and memories forever. And that's what you're looking for. You're just looking for like what it would mean to a young to and I see it with my girls now, and I'm fairly hands on with my group in the sense that I'm really giving it my all, and they're giving me their all. But like, what would it mean even for me able to tell them someday? But you know what? I actually got a call. She wanted to know blah blah blah. Or they wanted to know blah blah blah. He wanted to know blah blah blah. So and they're just getting recognised. That's probably all my crusade is here. It is to kind of go, listen, we're all working hard. The players are giving everything. The managers are giving it, but is it being seen? And if I can tell you after a year I haven't received a phone call from anyone, I'm probably banging my head off a wall. And I know it's not to throw any particular organisation or people or anyone in particular, but that is the reality. Do you know what I mean? And that was my frustration. That is my frustration, that the players are given a lot for very little, but that's the reality.
You mentioned Galway's big attendance against DLR. They won that game 4-0. They had 2,800 people in the game at the game. They gave away the tickets for nothing. Their next game was the dead rubber that you've mentioned against you guys. There was 227 at that. They had 210 against Wexford yesterday. I just can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around how you go from 2,800 and you win 4-0 to 227 for the next game and then 210. And to me, it's not Galway's fault. They put everything into that DLR game. It's the general marketing. It's the general way the product is placed in the marketplace. And I'll never get my head around it. People speak about the World Cup. There was absolutely nothing came out of that World Cup. It's a disgrace, in my opinion, what hasn't happened on the back of that World Cup.
I had people in the crowd yesterday in Turner's Cross, and there was a big group of kids, and they were all, everyone wanted to see Eva Manga, and that alone makes a difference, because now you've got an international player on show. Even I wanted to shake her hand at the end. I told her congratulations. You know what I mean? You're literally going, you respect the game. Do you know what I mean? And people come in and say a Jenna Slattery gets in, well, then I can guarantee it's a couple of more bums on seats in Galway, because now they've got an international recognised player, a superstar on there. And I was at a Dundalk team that came out of nowhere under Stephen Kenny in 2015, 2016. And Richie Towell was probably that poster boy at the time, where people were getting his hair cut and doing a celebration. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was literally, he had nearly, we met a superstar. Yeah, we met a superstar. Yeah. Yeah, like Decky's hair now. No, but like but that it can happen. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like, to be fair, you probably caught me at a moment that yesterday, Decky, where I was highly charged and emotional about the game. But everything I said, I'm reiterating now. It's just the reality. It's not me throwing stuff around and trying to have a tantrum and telling me this is not what I want. I am very happy where I'm at. My club are great, my group are great, but I think we deserve more.
One thing that we kind of haven't touched on, and Karen pointed out in her article, was like, and it's something that's affected Cork a lot down through the years, is the limit. Like, and it goes back to the same point about what's there for your most talented players. Like, year on year since what are we in Cork now, since 2011, 2012, we've lost players to the US collegiate system, and that's another thing. Like, how we haven't grabbed keeping those players at home somehow is beyond me, because some of them are going off and they're playing with really good colleges, but a lot of them are just going off and they're playing at a level that's actually way below what they could be doing here in the League of Ireland. And that's one that's always kind of stuck with me. Like, there's I won't mention them now, but there's players that have gone to the US and they're playing with colleges that aren't going to improve them. Grant, you've got your scholarship, you get your education, that's fine, but they're not going to improve as players. They might get a bit more, the college scene, there's a lot of investment in it, that they might become more athletic, they might become physically stronger, they might become physically fitter over time, but they're not going to improve as ball players. And I just think that part of that strategy that you have to have is, if you're not going to give, like, I do think we are quite a bit away from having any kind of proper structural pay system within the women's game here, where, like, to Eileen's point, that can become your job, that those are going to be few and far between, while the marketing is that we can only get 300 at a game. But there has to be other ways to reward players, and an FAI centralized deal or of some sort with colleges, even to get scholarships to get their education going, is something that has to be looked at.
But again, Ciaran, the problem is investment and the money it takes to do that.
Yeah.
And especially clubs like ourselves in Cork, who have bus trips to Dublin basically every weekend for numerous teams and academies. And there's a cost to that and there's an expense to it. And maybe that expenditure or that funding has to come via the government and via the FAI. It's probably the only way forward.
Yeah, no, and look, I've said previously, and I think it was after the FAI Cup, that I do believe the likes of Mark Scanlon, when I met him, has tried his best with things, and like the head office are doing their best, the clubs are doing their best. That isn't really where I'm hitting at. I know everything comes back to finances at the end. How do we grow the academies? But, like, I'm literally talking about my particular feeling on this, and I just want to stay on the topic of what I was getting at was, the players we have now are the ones coming through the academy. I want to be able to tell them that they can be seen like Chloe Singleton. They can be seen like the way Roisin Malloy can be seen, Kelly Brennan, whoever. I'm not saying all my players are great. Jenna Slattery. Do you know what I mean? Anyone. I'm just saying there needs to be an example put in place that, look, at, if you're doing well, you'll be seen. And that is my angle. Yes, I know it's public knowledge of the issues with the financial side of things. As you said, the attendance are low right now. We're only trying to grow the game. If there's only a couple of hundred at a game, how can you justify it being someone's full-time income or a full-time career, like Eileen was saying? But my feeling on it really isn't, I'm not dealing with those issues. I'm dealing with the fact that, how can we have a domestic league that doesn't seem to get looked at? We don't have a home-based thing. We don't have a 21s. We don't have a 23s. So what are the players striving and playing for? Like, my objective as a coach has always been, I think the greatest thing, like, if you offered me one cap for my country or 10 leagues, I'd take the cap for my country. We're trying to produce players for the senior team. That has to be the aspiration as a manager and coach in this country. Like, I'm a proud Irishman. Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to do that as a manager every day and motivate. And not just that, because some of my players don't play for us. Same as Casey. Like, Casey Howe is someone who just wants to get better, and I want to make her better. But I've probably, as I said, conversations with Tanya have probably just compounded I've never got a call from Ireland. Do you know what I mean? Like, Northern Ireland, she's come in, she was Emma Hayes, assistant manager at Chelsea, someone I'm learning off. I like when she calls me, because I can pick her brain. I get sent Casey's loads of when she was away. Like, it's a real professional operation and setup. She wants to know everything about her. She wants to know everything about anyone else I have who could potentially play for her. And I'm kind of going, how am I here a year and had the success that we've had in the short term, and I've never received anything from anyone ever, regarding a player I have here. And I also have about 4 or 5 players who are probably going to go to the European Under-19 Championship as well. And again, no one's ringing my phone anyway. Maybe they're calling someone else in the club, but not me.
Would you be in favour of a system whereby there's a quota put in place and a certain percentage of every national squad, every national team squad that's named, there's a certain percentage has to come from the League of Ireland?
Listen, that's probably unrealistic because I don't think we're there yet. But I think the home-based stuff is definitely the bridging to kind of go, well, you got looked at, you're not at the level. Do you know what I mean? How did the girls know if they're up to it? Or how do the coaches know if they're up to it if they're not even being looked at? Like, it's almost like, and even myself, like, you know, we're all competitive. The other 10 managers and myself, we're ultra competitors, but we also look at each other sometimes when we have our chats before the game going, tough gig, innit? Do you know what I mean? Like, it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're kind of going, what are we doing it for? Well, you do it for, I found myself, not that I have a dodgy box, but I found a channel to watch Casey play Portugal the other night when she came on. And I was just sitting there in my sitting room watching her play against Portugal. And I took pride from that. Do you know what I mean? I was like, geez, it's probably a great buzz for me to see one of my players going on to play international football in a Euro qualifier. And I'm probably looking for more of that, and I want to feel that more, and not just for my players. As I said, we should be proud as a league of Eva and Erin because they definitely deserve it and they're flying it for us. But they have to help the rest and the others who are nearly there, and there has to be a bridging because it can't just be to exist. It can't. It can't. Not even for me, because you said we're not going to qualify for every World Cup, you know, and we qualified for the last one for the first time. And even myself, it's not a coincidence that I found myself probably taking the job around that time. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of going, this women's football is about to boom. And I'd followed the league. I'd Minute. I had Erin in Minute. I'd Leah Doyle at Shells. I was beginning to follow the league anyway. I was a fan. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I just probably getting a little bit worried at this stage, kind of going, well, when's it going to change? How's it going to change? And why hasn't it changed?
Do you think it would help, Ciaran, if the managers got together and there was some sort of managers association like there is in England? I think it's the League Managers Association in England. If they're like in total between the men's and the women's game, there's 11. There's only 31 of you guys in the country. Do you think that that's something that would help push things forward and one voice where everybody is kind of speaking as one voice? Whereas you said you're doing this off your own back. I know the likes of Danny Murphy will do stuff off his back, but you guys don't get approached for interviews all that often, and it's hard to get a voice out there. So would you like to see some kind of a formation of a managers association in the country?
Potentially, yeah. I think that might be something that could help. But like, to be honest, and I won't reveal anyone, but like, it was actually a manager in the league that I managed with who I didn't even know until this season had said to me, would you not use our profile to help us? Like, you had a playing career as a man coming across. I'm not saying I'm great or anything like that. I'm saying, he was like, would you not speak out because, you know, it might help? And I'm kind of going, I didn't straight away. I was like, it's not my style. Do you know what I mean? It's I have a voice for women's football right now? Although I was up for Women's Player of the Year or Women Nominated Personality of the Year last year, which I found was quite a funny one at the time. I didn't actually want to win, but it was one of them where I was like, listen, I probably didn't feel I had a body of work behind me enough to merit a bit of a rant. And it's deliberate, and I'm hoping that it's heard, and I'm hoping that, and it's only, I get no gain out of it. I'm only trying to fight for the players in the league at this moment in time. There's nothing really in it for me. I'm not going to manage the home-based thing. Too busy.
I just wanted to say, like, you don't have that big a profile because your captain didn't even know who you were when she came in to manage. She didn't know anything about your playing career, she said.
She said she had to Google me, didn't she?
Yeah.
To be fair, I actually Googled her as well, but nothing came up.
Very, very harsh. She saw your four goals for City against Shelburne. That's what she's the first.
No,
thing she
look. I actually said to Decky yesterday. There's like Laurie is. You know, I the value of a captain in the women's game is beyond anything I've ever come across. Like, Laurie couldn't do it without her. To be honest, like, we've spoke in the past about the role Karen has at Peamount, Pearl at Shells. Like, without a good captain in the women's dressing room, as I said, it's, you know, in the men's dressing room, everyone's picking up their couple of hundred a week, and it's work. Do you know what I mean? In the women's, I depend a lot on Laurie, and she's carried a lot for me. And in fairness, I like a good slagging match with her, but I definitely know who she is now.
Yeah, no, I actually always think with Larry doesn't get the credit she deserves for the simple fact that she hasn't been in the league as long as, say, Karen, Kylie, Pearl, who are the very, very good leaders that we all associate with the league. And like Larry's absolutely in that bracket, like, because she's an incredible ability to get an awful lot from everyone around her. Like it's brilliant to watch. And I always say to Decky, like, I know when Wexford were quite successful, say, what is it, it's 10 years ago now, sorry Wexford, feeling old, they were never recognised. And it's location as well, like, and I don't want to be anti-Dublin or anything like that, but it does come down to location. Like you're in Athlone, so like even if media do cover the league, they're not going to go down to Athlone, they don't go to Wexford, they're not going to go to Galway. It's the Dublin teams get it, like. So
Well, it's probably it's probably a motivational tool for us, Eileen, though, as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why I was even saying it. It's great for the league, for ourselves and Galway, hopefully to hang around up the top for as long as we can, to not to say to break the dominance. It's more to spread it around the country. Like women's, like football, soccer is the biggest sport in the world. Do you know what I mean? And we're at the top of the women's game here. Do you know what I mean? In this country, and you know, my own daughter is 9 and she playing football locally as well. And I'm not. I'm on my own coaching career that I want to strive for and do well in, and I'm very ambitious and I want to do well. But like I do look at that my daughter going, I hope, in a couple of years there's something big and good for her when she gets there too. And that goes for, as you said, it's even below the academies deck of the 14. So it's the whole way down that we're trying to. I probably saw a lot of things wrong at the time with the men's game being in it, and now I'm trying to go, I hope it doesn't follow that, and then we end up with the same problems we're trying to reverse down the line. And that was all this was. Like, as I said, you interviewed me about a game yesterday, and here we are.
Yeah, no, but you hit a key point there. We have all this experience from what happened in the men's game over the last 20 years. And the women's game seems, in a lot of ways, to be heading in the same direction. So you would hope that those experiences that were learned would mean that the women's game wouldn't end up going down the same road. But it kind of appears that it is heading down the same road to a large degree, Eileen.
yeah, and without getting back into kind of, I suppose, going over what we've already said, 100%, it's exactly, and it's kind of, it's the definition of insanity that we see a lot of times at various stages of football. We're doing the same thing, expecting different results, and it's very much like said, there was a pathway there. We had a World Cup that we could kick on from, and we haven't. But I said, like, look, voices like Ciaran, as you said, maybe something like a managers association where you have big voices. And look, you're probably playing down your own career a bit. Like, I mean, you were at group stage Europa League twice. Like, I mean, so you are a very well-known voice in the League of Ireland in general, and somebody like you brings more eyes to it. You only have to look at somebody. Now, I'm not comparing you to Damien Duff because he was way better than you, but like someone like Duff is such a good character because people will listen to what he says, and I think people will listen to what somebody like you will say and say, oh, well, hold it, yeah, there's in that. And he's not just speaking out his arse. Like, he has history in the game here, in the men's game. He's had an incredible career himself, and I think that's important. And unfortunately, that's what we need because we're not getting the help, I think, from the top down. So it shouldn't be your job to do this, but unfortunately at the moment, it's another job for you to do.
Yeah, but that's what happened, Eileen. I took the job, and I think in one of my articles after the cup, I nearly referred to it as the Women's League have been a cult. You just, next minute I'm in with them, and you're trying to fight for everything and anything to get them over the line. And I think that's what good captains, leaders, players, managers, and I'm not the only. I'd say every manager in this country would feel a little bit like it's hard. It is hard, and it's hard. And as I said, I'm describing the couple of moments earlier that you can maybe strive for, which is a big day out on the telly in the cup final. But again, only 2 teams get that every year, and only 1 team wins, and it can't just be that. You need to have. They need more. The players need more. The league itself needs more. I do believe that they're maybe within the FAI, as I said, or I do believe Mark Shannon, they're probably doing their best, but I'm not just nailing on that. I'm literally going, the league needs better. It needs more. It needs to be appreciated. It needs to be recognised. And I'm hoping, I don't think this is going to fix anything. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying it to say, well, at least I stood by what I thought. There's no point me not saying it. It's just been my experience of it after a year, and a very enjoyable year with my group and my team. But there's a little seed in me when I probably read Karen's article and going, that's exactly how I've been feeling for a while. But I probably, as you said, Karen has a lot more Women's National League credit in the bank. She actually won Women's Personality of the Year. So I was only nominated. Let her say.
Someday you'll win it too, Ciaran. Then you'll have all the kudos as well.
Not after this.
Look, I think we leave it there because there's not a whole lot more to be said at the moment. Ciaran, thanks a million for speaking to us. Obviously, we'd imagine this would get some attention. We hope it gets the attention that you wanted to get, that it needs to get. You're certainly not on your own. I think everybody in TOTAP Towers would certainly stand behind what you've said tonight. And I'd imagine all the other managers, players, people associated with the league would also stand behind you. So maybe it is something good comes from somebody having the balls to speak up.
I appreciate it. Look, and as I said, the experience overall of the league is brilliant. The players, the managers, there's a lot of good people involved in it. And listen, if it helps anyone, I'm glad I said it. And I'm looking forward for the rest of the season. I have to switch back onto football now. There's a lot of football games to be played now. And I just love something in the background for even after this season and seasons to come. Hopefully, something can improve it for the players.
Absolutely. Listen, Ciaran Kilduff, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ciaran.
No bother. So after all that from Ciaran Kilduff, we're still a long way in. We still dealing with stuff that happened while we weren't here, Eileen. And the biggest news was obviously the international side played Sweden twice. Two very different performances from them, but both ended in defeat.
Yeah, look, I mean, I suppose not to be unexpected. Well, I did say we'd get 4 points, but I suppose it's not unexpected. Look, that we've lost all the games in this group. I think we're trying to find a balance. I think on the game in Lansdowne Road on the Friday, we'd probably try to be a bit too gung-ho when we're caught, and then we're maybe too defensive. And it's to strike that balance. And I think it's going to take time. It's really hard to kind of see when they can do it. And look, this year has always been about that playoff in October. I suppose the issue is what state are we going to be in going into that playoff? Because confidence has to be down quite low. Like, we can't seem to score a goal, like, despite good chances. And I think on Friday night, if we're a bit more clinical, we can have 2 goals and it's a very different game then. But like, you have to take your chances. And you could see all the players say it themselves afterwards. You could see Eileen was quite frustrated herself with it afterwards. So look, I still have a lot of faith in what they're trying to do, but it's just trying to strike that balance. And look, I mean, it's not going to get any easier. You have England without Katie, and then obviously France down the park. So look, 2 really tough games, but great that it was confirmed for the park, and Declan pulling at his cornrows. And hopefully you'll get a big crowd, and seems to be already an awful lot of interest in Cork. Like, a lot of people that I know now that wouldn't really be massive women's football fans have been on about tickets and stuff for it. So I do think I'm going to be right and you're going to be wrong about a decent crowd in there.
Okay, that's interesting. Just Eileen's referenced my hair there. Ciaran referenced it earlier on. People don't know, I have a 5-year-old daughter who did my hair especially for the pod and made me promise that I'd leave it in, and I've kind of 6 kind of bobbles stroke cornrows, as Eileen's called them, and I'm currently trying to pull them apart. John, very quickly, because obviously we're a long way into the pod already. Katie McCabe not available for England. Look, Eileen classes Katie as world class. Lots of people do, but even within that world class bracket, there's different grades to world class as well, and it just feels like it's her indiscipline that's going to stop her and prevent her from hitting the real top level of player that maybe she could be. Because like, the booking was just silly again. It was just lazy, and as I said, it's just, there seems to be an indiscipline about her game that's going to cost her and probably Ireland in the long run at some stage.
Yeah, thanks for that one, Decky.
That's no bother.
No, look, to be honest, I was up at the Aviva for the home game, and my gut on it was that trip to Australia did her absolutely no favours at all. She was well below what we expect of her, and I think she was frustrated in herself, to be honest. I think her legs were heavy. She just, and understandably, like, I mean, she's like, if she hasn't had to have a 34 hours round trip, whatever, a couple of days before the match, it's a completely different Katie McCabe playing. It's a completely different result. And I think, yeah, look, the booking was silly, but I think, look, I'm willing to cut her a bit of slack, because I think she just, those 2 games, I think she just wanted more out of herself than she was able to give. And I think the reason for that was purely that bloody Arsenal trip. Sorry, Eileen, I know you love that club, but it was ridiculous. It wasn't ridiculous from Arsenal's point of view, obviously, because it's a hugely successful trip to Australia. But from an Irish point of view, it was just, I think it killed Katie, to be honest.
Oh yeah, like no complaints. From a player welfare point of view, it's ridiculous. Absolutely outrageous, stupid. And like, I knew you didn't give me the question on Katie McCabe because you knew I'd defend her to the hilt, so that's fine. Carry on.
Absolutely. Like, there's method to the madness. Go to the neutral, not to the defend Katie and Arsenal to the death pundit. One other piece of international news that broke during the week was that Sinead Farrelly has retired. But look, at least she got to go to a World Cup, so best of luck to her going forward in that retirement.
You're a bad man. Do you know what I mean?
I'm never going to change my mind, so I'm not going to pretend that I will.
But I am going to give it a bit of balance there. And I think anybody who ever enters the sport, when you leave the sport, all you ever want to do is leave it in a better place. And by Sinead Farrelly has left her sport in a lot better place by what she went through and how she spoke out. So there you go. Just for balance. It's key, Deck.
Okay, that's me back in my box. No problem whatsoever with that. We also had an FAI Cup draw, guys, that saw Galway draw Shells, Bowes draw Peamount, Shams draw Wexford, and in the biggest tide around, of course, we have the Ring Derby with Cork City at home to Douglas Hall. Eileen, I mean, what colours are you wearing? Is it a half and half scarf? How's this whole thing going to work out?
Do you know what now? My heart belongs in Douglas Hall always. They've just given me a huge amount in life. I could never, there's too many of my friends playing. But Cork City will win that game comfortably. I was chatting to a few of the Hall players during the week. I think the intermediate sides are really up against it, like, because the National League sides are they're professional, everything but name. And I think even with the best will in the world, and Douglas Hall are the best side in Cork by a country mile. I don't care. No one's going to convince me otherwise on that. They've won the league 2 years in a row, on track for third, and they're still in the Intermediate Cup, obviously. But they'll struggle. Like, and that's what I said. I think they might do well for 30 minutes in fitness. They're like, the National League sides they're just on another level, and credit to the National League sides for that. But yeah, look, it's exciting. And my brother had texted me about 3 minutes before the draw saying what happens if they draw each other. But I'm in a less awkward position than the last time they drew each other in the cup, where I managed one side and coached the other. So look, much improved. I cheered for Douglas Hall then, and I will now.
Am I correct in saying that you scored in an Intermediate Cup final for Douglas Hall?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
Just to give, because lots of people listening won't know the background to the story.
Do you know, I think what's going to be really exciting on the day is, like, I'm going to just get to stand in the shed, give Danny Murphy a bit of abuse, maybe sing a song, maybe that just got this podcast in a lot of trouble, and Are You Small or Far Away? Give Danny Murphy a bit of that, and do you know what? It'll be a good day out, a good occasion for Cork football, I think.
Can I say to counterbalance that, so that I said 2 years ago when Douglas Hall didn't travel to Sligo Rovers to fulfil the fixture, that they should have been banned from the competition for 5 years? And I stand over that opinion. I'm not changing it. So they shouldn't even be in the draw. Anyway,
it's a new competition.
I don't look, if you don't fulfill the fixture. Anyway, look, there's no point in going over old ground. I had my say at that time. As I said, what about the other big games, John? Galway Shells, Bowes Peamount, Shamrock Rovers, Wexford. There's going to be at least 3 of those gone before Athlone even enter the competition.
Yeah. Are we going down the why did Athlone get it by
the
road?
Bible. Declan loves
That's exactly
Bible.
where we're going. That's exactly where we're going.
Well, no, okay, to give you time for that. So yeah, look, three of those teams, whatever 3 it is going to be 3 really big hitters gone from the competition, which opens the way up for Cork City to go on a run. Happy out.
Yeah, look, for people who don't know, who aren't listeners to the previous Cork City version of this podcast, my thing at Cup Draw time every year was, why is there a bye in the cup? It just makes no sense. There should be a ball in there, 16 balls, one team draws the bye ball, and that's it. Everybody gets the same chance. somebody brought that up with a senior member of the FAI over the weekend, and they gave me a shout to let me know the response. And the response was basically that it's not fair if one of the intermediate cup teams draw the bye ball, because they would then be in a quarter final and they may get hockeyed 10, 11-0 in the quarter final. Like, they can still get hockey 10 or 11-0 in this round. Like, it makes no difference. But what I would say to that is, if you don't want to give the intermediate sub clubs a draw, a bye for that reason, then put the bye ball in with the Premier Division clubs. Pick one of them, one of them draws it, and they're stood out of the draw because they have the bye, and the rest of the draw takes place as normal. So anyway, eventually what was said at the end of this conversation was that it makes no difference, because next year there will be 12 women's Premier Division teams and 4 intermediate teams. So it will be the last year that there will be a bye in the cup. John, that ties in with something you said about a month ago, that you expected Waterford to be a women's Premier Division side next year. Now we have confirmation from the top of the FAI that there will be 12 women's Premier Division teams next year. Waterford are the only ones I can see that are in any way positioned to be the team that enters the league.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I fully expect Waterford to be in the league next year. Yeah.
In the know, lads. In the know. John O'Sullivan.
We had the exclusive a month ago. Now we're just going around the second time just to make sure people know.
It'll be Carla Kilkenny now.
Yeah. The in the know game is dangerous, lads. I'm living it with 4 years. It could be dangerous territory. It's got me banned from clubs and everything.
Just one.
Yeah. We better get to the match reviews, guys. There was no underage games over the weekend, obviously, with the leaving cert, etc. in play. So Bows played Shamrock Rovers, Dalymount Park, Saturday, 2:00, 0-0 at half-time. Shamrock Rovers, to be fair, had been well on top in the first half, but hadn't managed to score. I had to leave at half-time to head for Turner's Cross for our game. And lo and behold, when I got to Turner's Cross, it was 4-0 Shamrock Rovers. Eileen, you said a couple of times this weekend that they were probably the most impressive side of all the teams that played this weekend.
Yeah, like we'll touch on them in all the other match reviews, but I thought overall most teams were fairly sloppy this weekend, and Shamrock Rovers weren't. I think they were at it from the get-go. Bows set up very, very defensively, and I think they struggled with their out ball. I'd have to give a special mention from Shamrock Rovers to Scarlett Heron. Like, her versatility is absolutely insane. Like, she's been moved around every game and she's incredible wherever she goes. Like, she was in a back three this weekend and I thought she was excellent. But they weren't under any pressure. Like, they'd Summer Lawless in goal. I thought she did very well. She's very good with the ball at her feet. Yeah, I just was really impressed with Shamrock Rovers. And once they got that goal, but like I said to you in Turner's Cross, Declan, like that has to be their big threat corners, like, because they're such a big side. Like, the Jess Hennessy, obviously, like she has to be around 6 foot. Maria Reynolds is the same. Steph Zambra, like, they're a really tall side. But I was really impressed with them. And another mention to, I think Katie O'Reilly was brilliant. And she was brilliant on both sides of the game. I think what really impressed me with her was her discipline defensively, because like Jess Hennessy and Maria Reynolds, like to get the ball and they like to break into midfield, and they're both two very good footballers to do that. And every time Katie just tucked in so effortlessly, and it wasn't that people were shouting at her to do it, she just knew that was her role. So look, maybe it's a case with Shamrock Rovers of this three at the back is really kind of working out for them. Everybody knows their role there now, and like you might see them maybe kick on a bit. And look, luckily for them, they go for the Rovers derby next weekend, and obviously they'll certainly be looking at that to kind of build the momentum, I think.
Yeah, and look, I mean, talking about Katie O'Reilly, as you said, she tucked in a lot. She was very good defensively, and that's really, really hard to do from a centre forwards position where she's been picked in the team of the week. So, look, more kudos to her for that effort from right up top to get back and tuck in there in those right wing back, left wing back positions. You know, it's an incredible effort from her. Very quickly, Eileen, the opening goal, like you mentioned, Bows set up defensively, but they were a shambles defensively second half. The first goal comes from Jess Hennessy picking up the ball and driving into midfield, and she carries it as far as the area. and it gets knocked out for a corner, which she scores from. Anya Gorman has way too much time and space to cross the ball for Katie O'Reilly's goal. I'm trying to recall the other goals now. Anya's goal as well. She has all the time in the world to tuck it away.
Yeah.
Those were just a shambles. It
Yeah,
was just
and
a
like
shambles defensively second half.
And it's mad because in the first half, like they were excellent defensively, like they had some massive blocks. But I think I said it to you in the group, like they can't maintain that. Like there was just constant pressure. And like I actually do think like Lisa Murphy's been one of the top performers in the league this year. I think she's been really good, but it was just never ending. They had no out. Like once or twice, maybe Sarah McKevitt got up a little bit, but I think they struggled to really take the pressure off, and it was always going to tell. And as you said, like Anya's goal, Leah had the exact same amount of time to cross the ball for Melissa O'Kane scores a good strike, but again, it's a mishap with kind of trying to be a bit too clever playing out from the back from Bowes, which we saw a lot of teams getting caught with this weekend. So yeah, like in the second half, I just think maybe Bowes were out on their feet because it had just been so non-stop in the first half. And I think for Ken going forward, he's got to be looking at it saying, if you're setting up that defensively, the out needs to be better. It needs to be someone who's able to hold it up a little bit better, and not just kind of one or two occasions if you are setting up as defensively as they did.
John, while all that was happening, you, from your messages in the group on Saturday, I'm going to use the word, had the misfortune to be watching DLR in Sligo. Wasn't a great game. I've looked back at the highlights. I haven't seen the whole game. Yeah, tell us the story, because as I said, you weren't overly enthused on Saturday evening.
No, if we weren't, if it wasn't our duty for the sake of the pod to be watching the games, I would have turned it off. I'll be honest with you. It was just two teams. They cancelled themselves out, or cancelled each other out, but not even in an exciting way. It was just there in midfield, no one really getting anywhere. It was slow. It was ponderous. It was just a poor game. But to be fair, two really good goals. First from Jess Gleeson, free kick from the edge of the box that she just runs up and absolutely hammers it off the underside of the crossbar. Probably would have a question about how the wall was set up to give for that angle, but really good goal.
Did you notice the way she struck the ball? There's no follow through from her foot. She just, whatever way she strikes the football, her foot never follows through, but the power she generated was off the scale.
Yeah, it was deadly. Yeah, no, like I mean, it was a fantastic strike, and she was excellent during the game as well. And then the second goal, Rebecca McMahon, Michelle Doonan does some great work out the wing. The ball comes to the edge of the box to Rebecca, and it's probably even a better strike than Jess Gleeson's. Sligo will be disappointed because they did limit DLR to just those two shots. Really, nothing else happened. Eve Badana made an absolute worldie of a save, pulling the ball out of the top corner just before Jess Gleeson scored. But yeah, a terrible game, and let's never speak of it again.
Okay, just very quickly on that second goal, I just want to highlight the fact that Michelle Doonan, as you said, did brilliantly down the wing, but again, she won a ball she had no entitlement to win.
Yeah.
You know, she wasn't there, and all of a sudden the defender, she was there, and it's just her work rate and that ability out there just really keeps the LR ticking over and really keeps them in games.
Yeah, oh no, it was a long ball from Eve, knocked forward, and like really good kick out into space, and Michelle Doonan makes up. She starts behind two Sligo defenders, ends up ahead of them both, and getting across into the box. It was, she's having a brilliant season. But again, look, probably not getting the attention she deserves, really.
Later, when those games finished, Shelbourne went down to Limerick to play Treaty. Eva O'Mahony scores again, the only goal of the game. It's just a complete kerfuffle, basically, in the box that Eva manages to get her toe on at the end of it and knock it over the line. Fair play to Amanda McQuillan, incredible performance with 0 saves to get her into the team of the week this week. That's what we want to see, more of that now. But look, guys, again, it was like I said to you, Eileen, I think we were in Turner's Crosses for about 10 minutes. I turned to you and said, that Treaty Shelbourne game feels like the most 1-0 Shelbourne win of all time. And that's the way it finished. It's just, they just get the results that they need to get without probably playing. Like, I don't think they were great on Saturday. They were maybe on the poor side, but as I said, they get the result they need to get and they're out of there with 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's one of those they're going to look back at the end of the season and just be glad that they got the 3 points, because they were poor. They were really poor. Both sides were poor. As I said, I think a lot of sides this weekend were quite poor, but look, they got the job done. And sometimes you have to go out on those days and kind of drag it out, or just pull it out. And I think with Athlone and Shelburne, they both had those weekends where like it didn't always go their way, but they got the result, and that's really all that matters. But yeah, like I think Ava's been brilliant since she's went up there, and I saw her slagging herself on Instagram saying top bins, like, but yeah, it's pure slappy goal, and honestly, like the goal is a reflection of the game, like for me anyway.
John, that's three, just one win in 7. On obviously, we all know where that was. That was in Turner's Cross the night they won in front of the TV cameras 3-0. But any concerns for them that they've slipped off the boil a bit?
No, not based on this weekend, to be honest. I think their performances have been okay. Probably not scoring as many as this. Like they started off scoring quite well at the start of the season, and maybe teams have figured that out a little bit. But I think a lot of teams just came back off the international break last or this weekend, and just weren't at it. And I think, like Eileen said there, the Shells goal was the type of goal that deserved to win that game. It was just.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was just a scrap.
I don't even have words for it.
Yeah, absolutely. When those games finished, we had probably the first big upset of the season with Wexford going up to Galway and winning. I mean, the game's 0-0 after 80 minutes. Jenna Slattery finds an unbelievable free kick from somewhere, puts Galway 1-0 up, and you're thinking, this is Galway. They haven't played well, but they're going to grind out the result. And like Shelburne did in Limerick, get out with a 1-0 win. And 2 goals in 4 minutes for Wexford changes all that.
Yeah, look, classic, to be honest. Galway shot themselves in the foot a little bit. They were the better side throughout. Jane Murren probably is looking at herself a little bit over the Jenna Slattery free kick, but I wouldn't be like, to be honest, I think Jenna Slattery's finish is absolute genius. She's setting it up so that she's going to put the ball into the box. Jane Murren is taking just a couple of steps off her line to cut out to place her for the cross, and Slattery just puts it into the top corner. It's perfect. Like, it's absolutely brilliant. And to be honest, I think Galway were actually in control. They were in complete control until even the goal when Wexford equalised, right up until the pass out by Berlin, that Kyola Bergen intercepts. They were in complete control, and it was just that mistake playing out from the back, and a good first touch and finish by Kyola Bergen, and then just a rush of blood to the head from Eve Dawson, when Ellen Malloy probably wasn't really going anywhere. That gives away the penalty, and Evine Clancy, who was excellent in the game actually and has been brilliant the last few weeks for Wexford, tucks it away. But yeah, look, Galway will be scratching their head how they lost it from the position they were in, like with only, like you said, 10 minutes to go, and they're 1-0 up. But again, Jenna Slattery's goal, if you haven't seen it already, find it on social media or LOI TV, because it was exceptional.
Yeah, and the thing about Slattery's goal is, I mean, every keeper in the world, not just in the country, every keeper in the world cheats there. Because, the position where it is and everything, you're always cheating because the ball's always coming into the box. And Slattery's probably the only player in the country who's capable of finding the net in the way she did and how she did. And it's just an exceptionally good free kick.
Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. I mean, and look, we talked about Aaron and Eva getting the call-ups to the Irish squad, and you're probably wondering why Jenna Slattery isn't being considered in that kind of frame. She was excellent. But again, that goal is just crazy good.
I think just to go back to Ciaran's point, and obviously I was going to say we don't want to labour it, but we do, because it's a very valid point. Players like Jenna Slattery are the ones who are really missing out when there's no home-based squad being brought together.
Massively, like, and it's not now that Jenna has come from nowhere. Like, she was excellent when she came through a treaty first, and like she was brilliant all last season. And she's probably pushed on. I think she's kind of kicked on another gear this year. Look, it's got to be frustrating for her, but I think at the same time, look, she obviously she's a young player, and I think she knows she will get a chance if she keeps going the way she is, because you can't keep ignoring her, you would think. I don't want to say that, because players have done very good things in the past and have been ignored, but look, I suppose for her focus is on Galway and pushing on and winning as much as they can there. But like, she's I think she's playing with a lot more confidence as well this season. I think she comes across as a naturally fairly confident girl. But I just think she's excellent and on both ends of the pitch. And I think just that ability to, as you said, like with the free kick the other day, and just she always has that ability, just a little bit of magic, like, isn't it? And she's fun to watch always. And has a little bit of a bite to her game as well, which I'm always a fan of. But she can't be that far off an international squad. But then at the same time, you hear what Ciaran is saying, and it's kind of hard to know, isn't it?
Very hard to know. Just on Galway and maybe the effect that this result might have on them, because obviously they were the better side, and John, you were clear about that. They were the better side. They should have won the game. When you don't win a game like that, you have to ensure that you don't lose it. And obviously it's a mistake from the playing out from the back that gives Bergen the equaliser. At that point, as I said, you have to make sure you don't lose it. And they did lose it. And would you have any worry about the effect it might have on them over the next couple of weeks?
I wouldn't, to be honest, because I think they're a really good group. I think Phil Trill's a really good manager, and I think he'll get them back at it straight away. I just, like, we kind of touched it right at the start of the pod, like, or just after Ciaran left. The only team that was at it this week really was Rovers. I think the break kind of took a bit of steam out of everybody. I don't think Galway failed to put Wexford to bed earlier in the game next week, and they don't give up that goal next week. I think it was just everyone seemed to be a little bit off this week. I really don't know, but no, I wouldn't have too many worries about Galway. But the third place for Wexford is on. Just drop that in.
Yeah, I was just going to say it. Third place for Wexford is on, especially Eileen, as Rihanna Jarrett is back. It's probably way too simplistic to say she came on the second that Galway scored their goal, and Wexford got 2 goals after she came on the pitch. But it's obviously great to see her back. She's unbelievably talented and has suffered with a fair share of injuries over the last couple of years.
Yeah, like Rihanna will make a huge difference for Wexford. Like when she can stay fit, it's really hard for her because, like, obviously given the nature of the amount of injuries she's had. But look, it's brilliant to see her, and like they idolise her, like down in Wexford. Like not just she will. You talk about putting bums on seats because people are called up the Ireland squad. They adore Rihanna in Wexford, like the general public down there. They just love her, like. So she'll bring extra bums and seats and Ferry Carrick Park, which I think they need. I think what's worrying for them is Kylie Murphy went off with what looked like a bad enough shoulder injury. Like Kylie would be a big loss. Look, I suppose at the same time, I think maybe Rihanna, if she's coming back, and maybe fill that leadership a bit. You can't replace a Kylie Murphy. It's just, you can't, like. But yeah, look, a big win, and John's dream is on. And I suppose in relation to Galway, like, I think the loss probably comes at a good time because I think they have a really good chance to bite back now against Shelburne, and it makes that game next week even more interesting than it was before, because how do they react to that now? It's something we haven't had to see from Galway this year. So big characters in that team and a different animal in terms of the belief they clearly have in themselves there. So can they just park it and, as I said, maybe come out? I just think it gives next week's game an extra element.
Look, finally, Eileen, we have to duck back to Turner's Cross very quickly. Obviously, if you want to get Ciaran Kilduff's reaction to that, there's a 6-minute piece with him on our social media platforms from Sunday afternoon. The game was fairly balanced in the first half, I would say, Eileen. The ball over the top was on for Cork City every time they had it. There was an offside given after 2 minutes. We were directly in line it. A, Colleen Kennedy was not offside, and B, the linesman was 5 yards behind the play, so could not have known whether she was offside. It was impossible. He knew. He just put up his flag and said, "It, that's grand, that'll do. We call her offside and off we go." Absolute nonsense out of the linesman. But look, it is what it is. We can't change it now. Fair result, though, at the end of the day. Athlone were the better side and deserved the 3 points at the end of the day.
Yeah, they did. And I think, to be fair to Athlone, and I know you spoke to Ciaran about like tactical adjustments, and another thing we talk about in-game management. I thought Athlone's in-game management, and it's probably led by Rossman at the back, like, was excellent. Because what threat we had in Colleen was kind of nearly gone by the 35th minute because they had made their adjustments, and that was kind of led by her. Look, Athlone weren't probably at their free-flowing best, but as we've said, I don't think anybody really was this weekend. The goal is a bit of a frustrating one because it's us caught playing out from the back again. And while I know, and like as I said, I think I said, I heard Danny in Shelburne say, like, look, I'm asking you to play out for the back, but like we're getting caught with it nearly too much. Like we know that Athlone have huge energy, like Roisin Malloy and Maddie Gibson on the two wings have massive energy. And while we kind of contained a lot of their wide play, we then just put it on a plate. And look, it's a great finish, to be fair. It's at the edge of the box. And I think Brown finishes really, really well. But after that, like City struggled then. I think Colleen was kind of out on her feet from about the 60th minute, and comes back to a point that you often make, like, what's our plan B? Like, we don't have one. And you cannot expect any player to put in kind of that constant press on her own for as long as she does it and not be gassed by the 65th minute, especially in a game where she wasn't really getting much ball. As I said, I just thought Athlone adjusted really well to it. And again, kind of similar to Shelburne, I think Ciaran, that's a game Ciaran and Athlone will look back on at the end of the season and say, that was a really, really big 3 points because we weren't on our best. On another day, Casey, how was a hat-trick? Do you know what I mean? It just didn't, like, they had an awful lot of chances. But again, look, she's coming off the back of an international break and might be a bit leggy. And look, she'll have those days, but the fact is she got the chances, which I think is a big thing. So yeah, from a City point of view, I think it was disappointing. Started brightly and just fell off. And said it's just that we have plan A, but where's our plan B when that kind of Colleen factor is taken out?
Right, very interesting. We'll leave it there for the reviews. Next weekend is the 10th round of fixtures. Saturday, 15th of June, Cork City are on their bye. And then the following week is the Avenir All-Ireland Cup quarter-final. So City won't actually play for 3 weeks. I think that's going to be a huge disadvantage to them. But look, we'll see. Their first game back is away in Ferry Carrig against Wexford, who may well be flying at that stage. So we'll see what happens. But next Saturday, Eileen, you've already mentioned it. The day opens, 2 o'clock, Talca Park. Shells against Galway. John, this is the biggest game of the season so far, without doubt, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Especially as Eileen said, because Galway have got that loss to Wexford to kind of react to this week. It's going to look. It should be a cracker. Based on this week, you'd Galway probably played better overall than Shells did, but you're probably. I still find it hard not to back Galway in any game this season the way they've been and the quality they have. But Shelburne just aren't going away, and we've said it a number of times on the pod so far this year. They've been there before. They know how to do it. They can grind out results. Arguably, they didn't deserve to come away from a win with Treaty, but they got their goal, scrappy as it was. But yeah, no, it's the most important game of the season so far. Absolutely.
Speaking of backing things, actually, just reminded me of my dirty little secret. I backed Shamrock Rovers on Saturday to beat Bows. It's like,
oh, for shame.
So to all my friends at Shamrock Rovers, I don't hate you. I'm quite willing to invest in you when the time is right. You know. Speaking of Bows, they play Peamount at 3 o'clock in Dalymount Park. Eileen, it's like I'm kind of convoluted a little bit here because I still have this thing about the bye week and Peamount are coming off a bye and they won't have played for 2 weeks. But with their injury situation, it probably may well have helped them. You have Bows who were shambolic at the back in the second half against Shamrock Rovers on Saturday. To me, it feels like it's a game that Peamount should and probably will win, but I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, I think Peamount will win it. I don't think Bows will set up as defensively, simply because I don't think Peamount play like as kind of to be as gung-ho attack as Shamrock Rovers try to play. So I don't think they will go as defensive. But to your point, yeah, like you would be saying, look, you could see the week off, the effect it had on every team this week. So now Peamount are off 2 weeks, but they're probably the side that needed the 2 weeks off with their injuries. So like you'd expect, and I think they're also coming off a poor result, what they will perceive to be a poor result, that draw with DLR. So I think they'll want to be putting things right. So yeah, like that, I kind of fancy Peamount, but like Bows, I think Bows will be looking at like they have a lot to improve and like they have so much to offer as an attacking side. And we've seen that at times this season. So like I hope Look, and like it's probably a thing we're going to see at times, like you're setting up to play in a certain way against certain teams, and City did it to a degree against Athlone as well. And you have to, but like you need to kind of, I suppose, put a bit of faith in your attacking players as well, that like every side is there to be got at this season. And to just not sit back, I think, and invite that pressure kind of constantly, because it's only ever really going to go one way. Like,
John, what way do you see this game?
Yeah, I look largely along the same as Eileen said there. I think Piedmont will come out on top, but I wouldn't expect Bows to be as poor as they seem to be this weekend.
Okay, very interesting. We'll stick with you, John, because your prediction is getting a little more credence every week. Wexford played DLR in Ferrycarrig Park on Saturday at 6:00. DLR had a couple of good weeks. You know, they've beaten Sligo. They had that 2-2 draw away with Piedmont. It's a tough game for them. Wexford are also picking up form, obviously off the back of that massive result in Galway. So, you confident that Wexford get this done?
DLR, I think DLR are 3 unbeaten now. They actually are improving quite a bit. They did suffer when Jess Gleeson was out injured, in particular. I think since she's been back, it's they have settled down a lot. They're getting people up and supported of Michelle Doonan much better in the last couple of weeks than they were earlier in the season, which was important because she needed that support. So I think this. I think this is kind of a tougher game for Wexford than they might have expected, you know, if you were looking at the league table a month ago. But I still think the quality Wexford have, I think in particular, Evine Clancy has been brilliant for them the last couple of weeks. And I do think Wexford will come out on top. But I don't think it's going to be easy for them. DLR are certainly improving.
Eileen, would you agree with John in that? And I presume you're working off the basis that Kylie Murphy probably doesn't play. And also, I guess if Rihanna got 10 minutes last Saturday, they're obviously going to manage her minutes. They have to be careful bringing her back in. So I imagine we probably see the max she might see would be half an hour or so.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely ease her in over the coming weeks. Look, I from what I was hearing, I wouldn't expect to see Kylie. But look, there's been other times in the past with Kylie, I've kind of thought, she's going to be out for a few weeks, and her kind of just attention to detail in her own recovery is absolutely, like, there is nobody better at it in the league. Like, her dedication on that side of stuff it's incredible. So it wouldn't surprise me to see her at the same time. But I thought Tegan Lynch did really, really well when she came on for her. And like, agree with John, like Clancy and Ellen Malloy is really kind of coming back to her best now as well. So I think the big thing, and I think Sligo probably maybe were a little bit guilty of it, and City were definitely guilty of it a few weeks ago as well. Like, DLR is not a gimme. Like, they're a very, very good side. They're a well coached side. They have some very, very good players. And like, if Wexford go into that game thinking, it's only DLR, they will be caught. So they have to approach it. Like, you have to approach it the same way you approach the Galway game, like, and give DLR the respect they deserve as well. So I think that would be their only danger. But if they show up, I fancy Wexford to win, but I think DLR will be going down there full of confidence. Like,
oh yeah, and rightfully so. At 7:00 on Saturday evening, then the real Rovers, Sligo Rovers, take on Shams in Sligo. I mean, Eileen, that result away to DLR is a hammer blow to Sligo, and we didn't really speak about their performance or the effect that the result has on them, but they now face into a game against a Shamrock Rovers side who are coming off the back of a 4-0 away win in their big derby of the year. So it's hard to see Sligo take anything from this game, really.
Yeah, it is. And like, I know Emma Doherty was back, but again, she's going to take a few weeks to kind of get up to the pace of things. Like, they were still short enough on the bench. I think they only had 3 or 4 subs. So look, they obviously are still, and like, Yvonne Hedigan, I think, was one of them. Like, Jess Farry spoke about her, like, she's only coming back off the back of a real long-term injury as well. So like, she's not going to have more than maybe 10-15 minutes. So maybe they could bring in some of those Gaynor Cup players early. Like, it might be an idea. But sorry. Look, it's hard for them, but like, I think, like, again, I suppose I always going to go back to that Talca Park first game of the season because they were so good, but they're just missing such a big chunk of that side now. Like, it fancy Shamrock Rovers to go down and get the win, especially after I just was really, really impressed with them this weekend. So it's kind of hard to see beyond Shamrock Rovers beating the real Rovers this weekend.
You see it the same way, John?
Yeah, I think it could get ugly for Sligo, to be honest. I think, I'd be Yeah, Rovers were really good second half. Actually, they were really good the whole game on Saturday, but particularly good the second half. And I think they'll just carry that on. Could be a tough day for Sligo, unfortunately, for them.
Final fixture of the weekend is the traditional 7:30 kickoff on Saturday night in Athlone Town Stadium. Treaty are travelling up there. Look, I mean, we spoke about Treaty. I think this is a game that Ciaran will just say, it's not must win, but it's a game that he will expect to win, Eileen.
Yeah, I think so. I have to say as well, just great spread of the times across the fixtures this weekend. Like this last weekend, like the weekend just gone is hard. There's a lovely spread where you get to see them all without having to watch back. I think Kieran's going to I think Ciaran and Athlone are going to expect more from themselves in terms of performance, but I also think Treaty are going to expect a lot more from themselves in terms of performance, because they were poor at the weekend. Again, I'll always come back to it. The size of Athlone's pitch, I think, just plays into their hands. Like, it's when you see her live, like, you realize how fast Casey Howe is. Like, she is absolutely rapid. Like, and she might a couple of times some of the City defenders had like 5 yards in her, and they're not slow. Like, and she's just gone past them. Like, I think, especially in Athlone, that plays into their favour massively. And I think their thing might be, I thought Maddie Gibson took a few knocks. So I would wonder about her fitness. We probably should have asked our manager there when we had him, but sure we didn't. But look, obviously, I think they're wide players like Roisin Malloy, obviously now friend of the pod. I think she's been excellent this season for them from that wide position. So even I think, like you interviewed Larry Ryan after the game, and I think Ciaran said in his interview as well, like every week for Athlone, someone puts their hand up. Like, they have a team full of people who are willing to put their hands up, like a team full of leaders, like that if someone doesn't show up, someone else is going to do it. Like, and that's a sign of a really, really good side. Like, you just don't know who it's going to be on any given day. And like, that must be brilliant, because it said like Casey Howe could have a hat-trick at the weekend. She doesn't, but someone else puts their hand up. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's not always reliant on one. And I think that's probably something that's really going to stand to them as the season progresses on all fronts that they're fighting on.
Do you know the thing that stood out for me about Athlone on Saturday against Cork City was it was pretty obvious they weren't playing at the top of their level. It's pretty obvious that some individuals weren't having great games, but there was just a touch of class about them, John. You could just tell that there was real quality there. And I mean, Jessie Rossman at the back was unbelievable. I hadn't seen her in person before. As good a centre-back's performance as I've seen live, I'll be honest with you. And like, she's not in this week's team of the week. That's no surprise. She's not been in any team of the week this year, because I'm tracking them, and I was like, I wonder how many times she's been in. And it's like, okay, she hasn't been in at all. Her partner Katie Shine's been in a couple of times. But look, that's neither here nor there. I would fully expect Athlone to beat Treaty, I'll be honest with you, John. And I'm just wondering if you see it the same way.
Yeah, I do. I think Athlone probably will come away with it. The only thing I would say is that, like, right through this season, Dom Foley has been able to set up Treaty, quite well to match the opponents that they're playing. But I think I think Athlone at home are just a different prospect. And yeah, look, I think they'll have too much quality.
Very good. That just about wraps up the pod for this week, guys. Anything you need to get off your chest? Anything else that we haven't touched on or skipped over?
Just from a Cork City point of view, it's nice to see Ellie O'Brien back in the pitch at the weekend. She's come back off an injury.
Very true.
So, and I suppose one thing that did surprise me this weekend across the league is the amount of players who, in the middle of their leaving certs, still actually played league games, not just at City, but right across the league. There's quite a few of them.
Should the break, and then we're going to get into something, and we're going to keep it another 20 minutes. Should the break be timed with the leaving cert, John, as opposed to being, what is it, in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time? It just seems to make more sense if it was now, and allow those players to sit their leaving cert, and those who aren't doing leaving certs can go away and have their holiday and just cap it all off in the one go.
I think it's worth discussing given the age profile of the league now at the moment, but yeah, like the 19s and the 17s take the break for exams, but there's a huge number of school kids in the league at the moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, look, I suppose you might say there's only a small percentage of them there, but again, if you're planning on taking a break anyway, why not do it to coincide with a time that helps people out?
Pardon my ignorance.
I definitely think there's.
I don't think they are taking a break. Sorry, like there's breaks for international games, but they're not actually taking a break from the league. Like you'll have teams on a break in a few weeks because of All Ireland Cup. Then you have FAI Cup, so Athlone would be on a break. Then obviously if you're out of the FAI Cup, but I actually don't think they're taking like a mid-season break. Say like they have maybe on the men's league. There doesn't seem to be, looking at the fixtures. There's like the only breaks are international windows. I could be wrong. And
okay,
do you know what I mean? Which is, I don't know,
right.
like I agree.
Right,
I think it's an awful lot asking, like, look, players don't care. Like, that's the nature. Players want to play football. But players' parents must be tearing their hair out this weekend watching it, like, genuinely. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like one bad fall there, like, and you're having to get someone to write your exam for you on Monday, do you know?
But there's a whole other discussion in the merit of having those international windows when they're having them, when players haven't played in 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever it might be by the time those windows come around.
Yeah.
But sure, look, that would be the time to fill it with fit League of Ireland players who could go up and
who aren't doing their leaving cert.
Yeah, who aren't doing their leaving cert. We could take on those English players who haven't played in a month.
Yeah,
there you go.
True.
There's the way forward. Something just popped into my head now that I want to get off my chest before we leave, and I'm mad now that it didn't pop in when Ciaran was there, because it's actually related to Athlone Town. We talk about player welfare and everything else, and I have to say, I was walking into Turner's Cross, and there was a bus parked outside Turner's Cross, and I just went to myself, "F***ing hell, there's no way that's Athlone's bus, surely be to God." And then I saw the sticker on the side of it saying Athlone Town, and I just went, oh my word. I don't know how to describe it. If Mr. Bean had a bus, this is the bus he would have, right? If that makes sense, instead of a Mini, if he was driving a bus, this would be the bus. Like, this thing was tiny. It's obviously can't have air conditioning, it can't have anything in it. Like, I mean, come on, Athlone. Like, you have a side, we're challenging for the league, they're going on 3 turns. Like, spend a couple of quid and get them some decent transport. Laurie Ryan actually referenced it. And I will put out that interview. I hope it's out before the pod comes out. Otherwise, we won't put it out till Tuesday or Wednesday. But whenever it does go, she does reference the heat and the travel down. And it's hot because they're all cramped in what looks like an 18-seater bus. And it's just like, I know this is one of those things where I don't need to say it or, whatnot, like, but I mean, this is the kind of shit that annoys me. Like, clubs need to do better for players, and you can't ask them to travel around the country in that yoke. Like, I mean, just come on, like, get them a bus with a bit of it. I'm surprised any of them have teeth, because their knees must be knocking off their chins, like, as on the road down. Like, it's that small and that tight, like, so, like, come on, Athlone, do a little bit better. I know you're listening to me. I know we've a big listenership in Athlone. Come on. If you won't do it for the players, do it for me. Get them a proper bus. Come on. As a favour to me. And I leave you alone then. You somebody will send me a message saying they got us a proper bus, and I'll back off. You won't hear from me again this season. That's all you have to do. There you go. Anything else? I mean, what a way. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just... Did you see this yoke, Eileen? Did you take any notice? No?
I didn't. You did point it out to me. You were very, very upset about the bus. Really upset about the bus. So look, I'll take your word on it that it was a bit of a Flintstones-esque kind of effort from Athlone, but
Flintstones, yes, that's better than Mr. Bean. Flintstones.
All their legs were driving it.
The 2 lads, yeah, without out the bottom of the bus, like, there we go. We have the cover for the pod anyway, without fail. Yeah, look, I mean, it's one of those things. These things annoy me, and then I just come on here and I say them, and that's it then. But look, I guess, folks, on that note, until next week when we shall return, don't worry, Roisin, we will be back next week. It's okay. Until then, guys, adios.
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 Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family. yabba dabba do time, a dabba do time. We'll have a gay old time.